times are you starting that? You're on. Am I live? Are we live?
Well, technically, yeah.
Technically, yeah. You gotta stop that video there, Joe. Good.
Oh, no. Oh, it's because the live video. That's what I'm not right now.
We're live, right?
Yeah, you're live.
Cool. Cool. Welcome to Federico Advanced live streaming. Somebody please quickly comment in below and just. Yeah, what's up, Nicholas? Just give me a check back to make sure that my microphone's working, that the stream is looking okay, because we're a bunch of rookies at this evening. Yeah? So I'm going to wait for that check back, and I'm going to continue. What?
I can hear sound on the video.
You can hear. Who said that? Yo, well, Joe. Okay. Well, anywho, somebody will check back with me, and I'll continue on like everything's running smoothly. Yeah, welcome to Federico Advanced Live. I'm Adam Federico. It's been, quite some time since I've live streamed with all of you, just due to a crazy hectic schedule and traveling and working and so forth. So I have had my position filled by a few of my teammates within our space. You've guys gotten to see Mr. Andrew Bates, who's been with the company now for about 5 or 6 years, and then our newest addition, Mr. Billy Miller. Billy, step forth. Billy here. Billy just tossed his hair. He did this. And it's funny, is I put a wig on yesterday in the lab, and all of a sudden I started doing this, and the ladies in the lab like, dude, that's so weird. Like all of a sudden your whole mannerisms changed once you put that wig on. And yeah, that's Billy. So Billy, come on back out. Yeah, yeah.
That's why we decided to cut your hair.
Yeah, right. I thought 3 guys around here with long hair is a little bit, weird as well.
Threes and half.
We're gonna be like the Rumble Brothers.
Oh my God.
So anyway, this is Billy. He just moved out here. What's wrong? Billy just moved out here from New Orleans to join the team, so he's going to be live streaming with me every now and again, but we've got some really great and exciting new ideas to bring different types of live stream material to you, so different kind of show ideas. So stay tuned. In the next month, we should definitely be unleashing some of those. And like I say, we're still a little bit new and rookie to this because we had our pal Joshua Flowers, Josh XO, who had been working with us for the last year, who handled a lot of the technical aspects of doing this. And Josh has moved on. He's moving to Chicago, Chi-Town, to pursue more photography, which is excellent for him. But it's left us in just, figuring out how to work this live stream footage. So, onto the haircut. This is Anna. Anna has been a model for me in the past, yeah. And Anna obviously has a grown out pixie shaped haircut, little crop. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm actually inspired by a lot of what the residual haircut is like leaving me. I love these little pieces in here. So, tonight's haircut's not going to be all about what I'm taking off, but about some of the elements of the haircut that were pre-existing that I'm leaving. But I do know that the back of the head is really growing out, and she's got this extremely strong growth pattern back through here where the right and the left grow very strongly into the center. So the way I look at this is, obviously I think about my shapes and I think about my techniques. And I just begin doing a process of elimination in the sense of if I were to cut this in a flat layer, what would it do to the back of the shape of the head? Well, as it began to move into the corners, I'd be struggling and fighting with that natural hairline growth. So when I look at something like this and when I see a hairline that's growing, so strongly inward, the first thing that comes to my head is to work, generally a rounder shape, because a rounder shape in true definition, it's a shorter shape in the front getting longer as it descends into the back. So that just general short to long progression it's going to help just, obviously the natural fluidity of this hair just to kind of continually move inward. So I'm going to be working with that growth. And I know that I want to build a little bit of weight up and build some shape of the head up. So I'm going to be working some round graduation. So we know graduation is a buildup of weight. And now working round graduation, I can either make it really heavy or really lean by my subsection pattern. The more vertical, or what we call vertical diagonal, that my subsection becomes, the flatter or the leaner that shape's going to become. The more horizontal diagonal that shape, my subsection is, the more weight that I'm going to build up within it. So working a shorter, tighter, croppier shape, I definitely want to work a vertical diagonal. So it's not straight up and down being vertical. It's not at a true like 45 or something like that being diagonal. It's just a hybrid, and you can really have a lot of like influx and play within, the subsection angle and how that's going to distribute the weight around the shape of the head. So let's begin. And Billy's going to be working the camera, making sure that you're getting good shots the whole way along. I'm going to tilt the head to the opposing side.
We got a woohoo, Louisiana.
Woohoo, Louisiana. That's not for me, that's for you.
Yeah,
That's from the Cajuns. Anyway, Joe. Joe's in the house.
yes, I am.
Joe, little brother Joe's in the house, working out all the technical difficulties for us this evening. So head position is going to be a way. Generally, if I'm building up weight within the haircut, I like to tip the head away from me. And I'm going to work just a really tight hairline section to start and just take this all down. So coming back in now, you see the section line with the fine teeth of the comb, just picking it up, getting it within my index and my middle finger. And now when I do this, on the left-hand side of the head, my knuckles are going to be further away from the head and my fingertips are going to be pointed and tighter to the shape of the head. Notice I use the middle finger of my left hand to kind of anchor against the skin for just basic stability and to make sure that I'm not readjusting that angle once I set it in place. And then coming back in with the scissor, just cutting upward into my second knuckle, breaking the first rule of hair cutting. Don't cut past the second knuckle, right? Continuing on, once again, following that line, I've got my guideline or my design line. Just moving upward. And then now as I drop this one down, just looking at that natural movement and flow of the hair, it's looking good. So as I begin to move up, I'm going to begin to make my subsection angle a little bit steeper to begin to flatten out that shape the higher I get up the back of the head. Second subsection. Cutting through. And for cleanliness, just go ahead and take that next one out. Back into the hand. And keeping those fingertips really tight into the shape of the head when we hit that bottom nape. Personally for myself, cutting round graduation is one of my favorite techniques to do in the salon. I use it on men and women all day long. Like I said earlier, by changing up your subsection angle, you can create just a ton of variation within how that shape kind of transfers around the shape of the head. As well as each individual head shape obviously is going to make that graduation sit, completely different than the last person that you cut it on. So moving around, always taking just a bit of the previous subsection in hand as a basic working guide. And I'm not using too much over direction into subsequent subsections because I want to keep that graduation lean. The more I over direct it into the previous subsections, the more weight that I'm going to build up. So there's design line, guideline, coming back in. I can see that that last haircut had a lot of texture put through it, which is a good thing for Anna. She's got a lot of hair back there, kind of make it come to life. So we'll definitely have to reestablish that because most of it's being cut out right now. Moving around that shape of the head. I feel like Billy's got a good camera angle moving on.
Why don't you tell the people where you've been for the last few weeks?
Yeah, what's been going on?
Yeah, what's been going on? Why haven't you been doing this?
Well, you want me to blow my load all in like 5 minutes? I got like an hour.
You got an hour? Well, why don't you tease them a little bit? Come on.
Uh,
Build up some anticipation.
Let's see. What have we been doing? Let's see. Since, hey Nicole. Since the last time we've live streamed, what have I been doing? I think the last time I live streamed was back in June. So since June, I don't know. Let's see. I'll start with the boring stuff first. We'll build up the more exciting stuff. Been to Vegas for the Cosmoprof show for about 3 days. New York for some Goldwell stuff out there for about 4 days. What else have I been doing? We had a really great event here last week. Last weekend we had the Goldwell KMS Hair Collective 2014 event. Not saying that stuff all happens on Thursday nights, but my time gets kind of reappropriated. It's when there's a lot going on the weekends and so forth. What else have I been doing? It's been just like kind of a mess. I get lost within it sometimes. There's other places. I went down to Pismo Beach. That wasn't work related. So stopping for a minute. As I move and I work through, just kind of checking like the natural like fluidity of the haircut, beginning to look at the shapes that I'm building up within the haircut. Definitely a nice short to long progression of lengths. Kind of have to look past some of the color variants. Anna was pretty, kind of like a faded out copper when she came in, and for the live streaming purposes, what we did was we put a copper conditioner on her head for about 10 minutes under the dryer, just to kind of give it a little bit more vitality and shine for the evening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on with my subsection patterns right through to the center back of the head, following that same point of over direction. My over direction on this shape is, everything's just going just to the previous, so it's a number game, Number one's kind of pulled just forward of its natural subsection. Number two goes to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, and so forth. And with that, very soft, natural over direction, you build up a really soft, kind of round buildup of weight. If everything went back out to the corners, you're going to wind up with a much heavier weight line in the center. And the best reference I can think of that is, the classic Sassoon cut, the Firefly, which would be, and some people don't know the Firefly reference, but you can just think of like 1970s, like Dorothy Hamill, very wedgy type of haircuts. But that was a round graduated shape and technique that was worked in. And there's a lot of variations, again, with round graduation that can take on.
Yeah, I was thinking of that Greek sci-fi show.
What? Greek sci-fi?
The Greek sci-fi
No,
show.
I never saw that one.
That's great.
No? I never saw that one. Great sci-fi show. Let's see. Share some things that we've got, what just happened here. Last week, and I talked just briefly, we had the Hair Collective going on here. And what the Hair Collective was a kind of like a joint venture. It was a Goldwell KMS show that we hosted in our theater space, and we had Dimitrios Zoumas out from Goldwell. He's a Goldwell creative director, and he's like 7-time NAHA winner. He represented Goldwell, did an amazing presentation on stage, did a presentation of, I think, about 7 models on a Sunday evening. And just before him was Sana Brado, who is as well a NAHA winner and creative director for KMS. And she was second in line. And then the AJS Salon team, and AJS Salon, which some of you may know or may not know, but that's our company's kind of like sister salon. That's the salon that I work out of and run, and that everybody that's live streaming that you see in live streams so far is coming from, and they work behind the chair as a stylist as well as educate within the school on advanced levels. But we did a show kind of kicking it off. It was a really cool evening. It was about a 2.5-hour show. Just a lot of education on stage, a lot of demonstrations, some great looking models kind of parading around. And then the second day, Monday, we had 3 different hands-on classes that you could have a choice of one to take. And myself and Billy taught a creative scissor cutting class. Demetrios did a look and learn session. And so he did a look and learn session in the morning on color, on some color placement, and then he did a hands-on class with color the second half of the day. And then Sona did some long hair dressing. So it was a really great time. We had a good turnout, you know, always love to see more, like I say. So you can always stay in the know of what's coming on by checking us out at federico.edu and go to our advanced tab, or you can follow us on Facebook, Federico Advanced, as well as Instagram, Federico Advanced, and I'm always posting the upcoming classes on, you know, those different social media sites. And at federico.edu, you've got our calendar on there, as well as you can actually purchase tickets for our events, as well Goldwell KMS events, I believe, through our website. So it makes it really easy. And in the next couple of weeks, we've got another great artist that I really enjoy. He was somebody that I was taught by very early on in my career when he first started out at Sassoon. It's kind of funny because I was a student there and he was teaching there, and we're about the same age, but it's DJ Muldoon. And DJ, you know, he spent some time with Sassoon and then did some other time with another company. And he's kind of independent now. He's not kind of, but he's independent. And he has a salon that he owns and creatively runs called The Factory down in San Diego. And he's a really amazing hair cutter. So he'll be coming out, and the date is September the 16th, and doing a hands-on haircutting class to salon professionals. Tickets for that are $275, and alumni pricing, if you're a Federico alumni, are $250, and if you're a student, I'm sorry, $225, $225, and then a student $225. But don't tell my brother Joe, who handles the money. If you heard it here and you book a ticket, we'll give it to you for alumni pricing.
Where can they purchase the ticket?
Federico.edu on the advanced education tab. Joe wasn't listening, was he, for the last 5 minutes?
I totally wasn't
Yeah.
listening to that at all.
Because of my rants. Yeah. So DJ's coming out, and then what's something cool that we're doing here is the following day we're hosting something called the Salon Symposium, and that's a day really more catered to our students of Federico, as well as we invite out alumni and then other salon professionals. But we have special guests from Arrojo coming out and doing a 45-minute to an hour-long presentation, followed up by DJ Muldoon sharing the stage with another wonderful artist by the name of Douglas McCoy, who's got his brand, The House of Pop, from up there in Spokane, Washington. And they're going to do a collaborative little show. Then we have, who else? Peter Anthony, who is going to come out and do some kind of motivational business talks. And I understand the Goldwell and KMS may have some artists out doing some stage presentations as well. And then my team will be doing, AJF again, we're doing some pre-done models, and we'll be sharing our 2015 advanced education calendar of classes that we're setting up. Billy, how's your camera angles, buddy?
We're going to find out. Why don't someone type in and let us know what's going on?
Billy,
They're looking pretty good.
Billy wants somebody to comment in below to say if my arms are in the way or if Billy's doing a good job moving that camera around. Okay. So as I work around the second half of the back of the head, working the same subsection angle, same finger angle to keep my graduation as consistent as I possibly can. I'm just working that nice round graduated technique, and when I get into the center of the second side, you'll notice that I definitely have a little bit of a tail here from the small points of over direction, leaving the weight right in the center. At that point, I can choose to either A, dismiss it out, and by flattening out that corner, or I can just soften it up by doing some point cutting. But I'm going to leave my options open for the time. So back to that salon symposium, because I just talked, and it's about more about haircutting, but it's about sharing like what the world of Federico is and what we're doing here. After the morning stage presentations, we reformat the theater space so it gets set up like a job fair / trade show. And we invite out about 25 of our network salons, and the network salons are people within our community, Northern California, who come in and they get the chance to share the message of their salon. They've got chairs set up by the sides of their tables where they can do demo work out of, to continually share education. But that's where it becomes like a job fair. So it's like a meet and greet time for the students, to the salon owners or salon staff, as well as if they choose to share like, you know, more hair cutting, coloring, styling, whatever it might be, they can do so. And that's a pretty cool thing. So, like I said, that's primarily open to students, alumni, and some select industry professionals, but we've kind of worked it this year that once we get all of our invites out and our RSVPs in, that in the last few weeks we'll open it up to the mass public. It's a free day, so if you're in the area, you want to make the trip out, you can reach out through, once again, social media or the website. You can call in and speak to, her name is Leticia or Letty, and you can find the phone number on the website and just tell her that you heard about the Salon Symposium through Adam's big mouth, and she'll fill you in on some of those details. Okay?
I'll let you guys do it.
You got it? Thanks, Joe.
Everything's running, so
Thank you for making it happen.
not a problem.
All right.
All right.
All right. So finishing up, moving my way around the back of the shape of the head. Just kind of flattening it out through the nape here. Let's see. What else we got going on? October. We got Mr. Douglas McCoy coming back out, sharing his brand, the House of Pop, for a brand building class and a haircutting class with him. Really great razor haircutter, really great stylist, good vision, great visionary. So if you're interested in coming out and taking a class from Mr. McCoy, definitely tickets available. Once again, federico.edu for those tickets. So I'm going to come back in. I'm just going to kind of check some of this work out through the bottom nape, seeing if I can flatten it out a little bit more, take it in just a bit more tighter. I switched my combs up. I love that Sessi Bone comb, but sometimes when I want to get in real tight, that the fine teeth on these YS combs just have really nice control. There. Spin her around a little bit. It's important, you know, your mechanics, and when you're working with a haircut, is, you know, generally I try to have my body position emulate the shape of the haircut, whether it's I'm transferring my body around the shape of the head. Like right now I'm working round, so I started, you know, in front of the subsection. I began to lightly work my body around the shape, you know, to build up the technique and the shape of the haircut. If I wanted to utilize heavier points of over direction, I may have placed myself more stationary to make sure that I was pulling that hair to the one subsection I was looking to over direct it to. But in this case, if I do not transfer my body around, I'm going to just have a natural tendency to pull that hair either A, too far forward, or not far forward enough if I'm too far behind that subsection. So you can use the rotation of the chair, which I'm doing right now for camera purposes, so I don't get my body too blocked up. Or you just take little half steps with your body. Nice and tight. I'll come back into the opposing side and I'll step out of that camera. Tilt your head. There we go. So, for the first-time viewers or any viewers out there, you know that we like questions or comments, and you can definitely type those in on your computer below. And we'll do our best to answer them. It's only me and Billy in here, so he'll check the computer every now and again. I think Billy's like me. So if he's back there typing, don't get bummed out if he spills something, what I call creatively. Yeah, I've got a great saying about that. It's like if you can't spell a word more than one way, you're not very creative. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm really creative.
Very creative. Me too.
You read my resume?
Me too. At this point, I just begin to look past all that. Great. So I really like the shape that I'm beginning to build back here. I got to look through that little bit of a color variation. You can see how working that round graduated technique has really just kind of collapsed all that really strong growth pattern into the hairline. It's leaving this little, you know, soft tail through the center nape because that's her low point of the hairline. We'll take care of that at the end. I'm going to move forward. Now moving forward, I'm going to work myself into the sides. I'm going to begin to change my technique and my shape. I like the length through here. And I think I'm just going to work a really nice flat layer to lean all this out. And I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm first going to start on the opposite side of the head that I'm working on. I'm going to tilt that head position to me. Cool.
I wish my clients would keep their head in the position I needed. Tell us a little bit about how you move your client's head around.
Absolutely.
Barbarically or gently? No.
Barbarically, yeah. So Debbie has a question. Debbie's asking, you know, she has a trouble with keeping her client's head in the position that she needs them to be in while she's cutting to establish whether it's the length, the shape, the technique. We all have that problem. You know, I think it becomes like a very simple conversation. And for a model, it's much easier. I always have a better time when it's a model because I simply say, put your head in the position I place it in until I reposition it. You know what I mean? And you can say that nicely with a client. And the conversation kind of goes like, hey, you know, I really like the conversation we're having, but obviously you have come here and paying me money for a service, and I really want to provide the best service possible and give you the best haircut possible. And the more that, you know, you're throwing your body around, you're leaning the head around, you're reaching for the cell phone, you're reaching for the glass of water, cup of coffee, whatever it might be, you know, it's really doing a disservice to the end result of your haircut. And you've got to be honest. I think once you have that conversation, you'll have clients who'll be like, oh, wow, first off, no one's ever told me that. Or second off, you know, they're just not going to give two shits, and they're going to continually bobble around. See, I lost it, 2 shits. 25 minutes in, I've done good. And they're going to continually bobble their head around. And at that point, they're paying you for the service. So I guess as long as at the end of the service, they're happy with the experience that you created with them that day, at this point, you know the haircut's really secondary or tertiary. It's really about creating the experience for the client. But as long as you convey the message and you let them know like what they're, you know, moving the head around is doing to the end result of the haircut, I feel like you've done your job. Does that make sense? That's just a take. So what I'm doing is I'm coming back now, and I'm going to begin to flatten out everything right around the parietal ridge. So I've got the head position tilted towards me, and I'm coming up with just a very quick little horizontal shaped subsection. I'm utilizing some of that round graduation as my length guide, and then my finger position is now flat or parallel to the floor or the ceiling, and just cutting right along it to flatten out the round of the head. Billy's laughing.
This is a little while ago, but Nicholas Ray was, I'll need one of those wigs. I think this went back to previously
Oh,
when Joe was manning the comments.
Nick, if you're still watching, buddy, it'll change your life. I want to tell you. Putting that wig on me, it was scary. Like all of a sudden, I was just like,
I see you wear it all day.
I said, you go get it right now. I'll put it on. It was a long black wig with this heavy fringe, and I just started like, it's funny. My wife had extensions for a while. She loved that tell story, and she had this like 3 times the abundance of hair that she normally had with these extensions. And there was a while she had them just braided up for a long time, and they were sitting over her shoulder, and she'd just be like petting them. It was like petting like a horse's tail or a horse's mane. I was like, what the, it was just like so weird to me, but yeah. And then I put a wig on and I instantly got it. And I was like, I need to go shave my head because I cannot have long hair because I'd just be like one of those guys caressing my weird long hair. Billy, you at least throw it back all the time. That's good, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've learned one thing, it's been a long time since I grew my hair out. As a guy doing hair, cutting it short, I used, kind of forget sometimes on how gentle you have to be with longer hair and shampooing it. And I've realized, I lose a lot of my hair shampooing it because I'm just really rough with it.
Yeah. Invigorating that scalp every morning.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna like work on keeping these little like angelic pieces. I think they're cool. I think with a little bit of product and kind of making them fuzzy, they could be cool. And we'll come back in a week and be like, listen, that was cool, but cut those things off.
Those are the only things that ever stay with my haircut.
Really?
Yeah, that and my tail.
Like that in your tail.
Those are my tail. They're always the ones that stay.
So now once I flatten out that parietal ridge line, I'm just gonna work that length guide just kind of in a concave manner. So shorter into the parietal, getting longer down into the bottom perimeter, just to keep this really nice and lean. I'm going to over direct subsequent subsections forward. Notice that finger angle is kicked outward. Cutting downward. And I'll just move backward in this fashion until I run out of hair. And that'll probably be once I hit that mastoid process. Everything just back into the subsequent still. Everything forward, yeah. That way it gets a really nice linear, flat shape and it doesn't build up too much weight too quickly once again. And this is where I begin to run out of hair and I can see I'm beginning to converge in to my previous sections of the head. I'm just going to continue through to make sure that once this hair is dry, everything just kind of blends really nice and seamlessly together. And I bet you after this one, if there's anything even here, it's just like done. Yeah, very little right here. Cool. Just to flatten that out, and I can detail that at the very end, open some of this up. But all that kind of detail perimeter work I like to keep for the very, very end.
Adam, I may have missed it earlier.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit on, you started in the back by the mastoid process doing a round shape, and then you went back to the front, still keeping it over-directed slightly to hold a round shape. What was your choice in going to the side panel second?
The side panel second. I knew that I wanted to change up my shape when I hit the side, so I wanted to keep everything a little bit more linear and flat, mildly concave. And to be very honest, I knew that that was a direction I wanted to go. I wasn't necessarily like fixed on it at that point, but I knew round graduation was going to happen in the back, so that's where I opted to start. And that way I was working that for 15 minutes or whatever it might be, that I had that time to kind of evaluate to where I really wanted to take the sides. I knew that obviously they needed to go shorter. It's just in which way. Was I going to continue on with round graduation? Was I going to go into a layering technique? And it just becomes a process of elimination, and that's the way I think about hair cutting. Same thing I do with color is It's a process of elimination, you know, on what my options are and then what's left for me. I'll come back in from the front. More water. So I'm really excited to share what our 2015 Advanced Education Calendar is going to be like. You know, in the last couple of years through Federico Advanced, and I think what we're doing here at Federico and Federico Advanced is a little unique to the industry. And, you know, because what I call ourselves is we're an independent education house, meaning that, you know, we definitely have our partnerships with some really great core manufacturers when it comes to support for each company, for color and for, you know, wet lines. But when it comes down to, you know, call it post-secondary or licensed professional education, you know, we're not handcuffed in to having to really only share one kind of core technique or methodology. So with that being said, you know, the way that it's kind of worked in the past couple of years, like every month or every 2 months, we have some really great artists out, and they may be coming from completely different backgrounds or completely different companies. You know, you could have like Nick Arrojo out sharing, you know, his really great message of Arrojo, New York City, sharing their education, their products, whatever it might be. Then that could be followed up by, like I said, Douglas McCoy, who's just a really strong independent artist with his own brand building, the House of Pop, you know, and he's began now working actually with a really cool new line out there, R&Co, Rogan Company. Or DJ Muldoon, you know, some other names would be the Teals out of Portland, Oregon, Andrew Carruthers we've had out, Sherry Jesse, who again is a NAHA winner, very strong like editorial type stylist. And I hate doing this because I'm not trying to forget people, but there's been such a really great slew of educators from, you know, independents to, like I say, manufacturers who've come out and shared their message. And that's really what I'm trying to build up here in Federico, is trying to create a home in Northern California to start, and then obviously through the nation for people to come out and to get education at, you know, all different levels from all different, you know, manufacturers. So that way you can go back into the salon and stay as well versed as you possibly can. But in 2015 it's changing a little bit, where we're not going to house as many outside names out there. We're really going to begin on building our own brand under AJF, which is my salon, or Federico Advanced, our own core like methods of education, being cutting, coloring, editorial styling, portfolio building, contemporary men's haircutting, barbering, business, and so forth. And then we're going to bring out 4 really large names, more like modern day iconic names of the industry, some international artists out to share their messages with you, some people who have not even hit the States yet. So that's going to be exciting. So you got to stay in the know with what we're doing here at Federico to stay up with, like, you know, obviously the education that's going to be coming through, that you can hopefully come out and join us. And the thing about, you know, I think social media in the world today, that's extremely great. And I've said this before on, I think, on the show, but you know, early on, I think when Billy and I started, and Billy was one of these guys, and I was one of these guys. In order to make it in this industry, you had to kind of go to, like, you know, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Chicago to, like, kind of align yourselves with the right people, or to build a name within a company. And really, I think since maybe 2003, 2004, with you know, social media and the internet, you can be in like any town USA, and I'll call Sacramento right now like kind of any town USA, and have just as much of a possibility to build a brand and to build your name as if you were somebody from London or, you know, Los Angeles might be. And it's about just getting your work out there and pushing out content and shooting your work and doing photo shoots and video shoots or live streams or whatever. And you just begin to like build brand recognition for yourself, or your name recognition. I mean, there's so many hairdressers that I follow on Instagram. They're out of like Croatia, Romania, Czechoslovakia, like anywhere, you know, that they're just a hairdresser like you and I, like every day just stand behind the chair, but they're just doing great work and putting their work out there. And it's like, wow, man, it's really cool. Like I know of you and the work you're doing out there, and it's created some opportunities, you know, on each way, as I began to reach out to some of those people to see if they would want to come out and share their messages, you know, within our space. So, was that a full thought?
That was.
Okay, thank you.
I'll throw in a question for you.
Yeah.
Along with another one. So what about you know, I touched base on this last week. Some of those hairstylists that are hustle and bustle behind the chair because they
Yeah.
have a different story.
Yeah.
You know, we love what we do, and sometimes we get to be patient at it. But sometimes you're on a grind, and you're hustling, bustling, client after client, and there's many of us out there, and we're a little bit older. So what about like some of the attempts with the young guys like yourself? Keep up with social media. If you're hustling, bustling behind a chair, how do you utilize some of the younger team members in a salon?
Absolutely. I mean, the younger guys, the younger team members know it better than any of us, you know, like in my salon, I've got a gal who's, you know, younger. She's a younger generation of the salon, and she's my social media like manager. And I think if you come from a salon that you've got the ability to position somebody and being just like the social media manager for the salon or for your own pages, then that's what you've got to do. I know a lot of big named hairdressers out there that have a very strong social following and a very strong social kind of like what's the word, presence, you know, but they're not the ones posting to their account, you know what I mean? They've got other people definitely posting their work and posting for them, but you've got to do what you've got to do to, you know, just keep yourself out there and current. And unfortunately and fortunately, social media, it's definitely like here to stay, and it's only going to be expanded upon. So it's got to figure out a way, like I say, like Billy's kind of saying, find those younger team members in the salon that, you know, we're still maybe building. And if you work in a commission-based salon or whatever, and it's not really at your liberty to task somebody with that job, maybe you can, like, you know, kick them off a spiff, like, you know, hey, give you 25 bucks or 50 bucks every week you handle my social content. Create a calendar for them. I mean, that's something that I've done within my business, is where we have a Monday through Sunday social media calendar, and every day I've got, you know, 3 different times a day that I want social media content to go out on the different platforms and what that subject matter is to be on. And, you know, it's like haircutting. It's like if you want to learn haircutting, you got to learn like the basic structure and the foundation, because with structure and foundation, it's very easy to follow anything. So setting forth that structure and foundation and an internal kind of like a frame of work when it comes to something like that, I mean, it takes all the guesswork out. Who's calling? So,
That's a subsection. It's just standing straight up.
look at that.
That's nice.
Let's move it like that.
Nice design line.
So, what I'm going to do is I've now taken out a vertical strip through the center of the interior, and I'm going to work this lightly concave, so it will be a little bit shorter into the back crown, and keeping the softness around the face. So you can see as I begin to move into that front fringe area, there's really not much to cut out of there. And I'm going to begin to work just lightly pivotally off of that. Keep that head towards me, and I'll pull this hair up and do the previous. And I'm using the tips of the scissor because I know that at the end result of this haircut, I want all this to be really nice and soft. So rather than cutting a really nice blunt line, did Billy just turn off the YouTube?
Sometimes, oh my God, did I?
What'd you do, Billy?
I went to comment for someone, and I was like, oh shit.
Let's see here.
I don't have to jump away for a second.
You gotta excuse me 1 second. Anna, tell a couple jokes.
I don't know any jokes.
Yeah, no jokes. Let's see. And there we are.
All right,
Where are the comments?
right there.
I wish my clients would keep their head in the
No,
position.
we already answered that one. I was going to add a comment,
Oh,
but we'll just say it. Hey,
yeah.
gals and guys, we'll just answer them live
Yeah,
instead of typing.
comments are being answered live.
So,
We don't want to mess with that computer. We're a couple haircutters. We're not the most technologically savvy folk yet.
what's your social media gal?
I think this might be even a little above and beyond her. Here, drop your head for me. You can take a look at that subsection pattern. The first one went straight down center vertical, and then I began to like pivot out from that first one, and then everything is being over directed back up into the subsequent. So I'm kind of working a flatter shape through the top. So as I work over direction on the top, I'm going to stand on the opposite side of the head that I'm pulling the hair to. And just cut. You know, there's not much hair coming off right here, but like I said early on, this haircut's about what I'm leaving more than what I'm taking, and just kind of resituating the shape in a little bit. Okay, and then I'll come back through the top. I'm going to cross-check some of this work and then collapse it down even a little bit more with more texture. So at this point, I'm going to get my knuckles and my fingers really tight into the scalp, go internally into the shafts of hair, keeping definitely that length in there, but really opening it up with more texture all the way through. And then I'll just cut each subsection as an independent, not pulling the previous into hand. Sometimes I find if I continually pull the previous into hand when I'm doing these techniques, obviously the previous subsections just wind up getting shorter and shorter, or more texture put into it. And when you're cutting short textured hair, the way I kind of judge it is if the hair can stand up on end on its own without like the help of product, you generally have a nice amount of texture running through the hair. Because product should just be there to like support the end result, to finish it off, but not to like, you know, build it, if you will. So moving through, keeping my finger position rather just like flat or parallel to the ceiling or the floor. And this fringe hasn't really been cut at all. Like I said, I want to keep all that. I'm just going to really just kind of tip into it quite a bit to really open it up. So tricks in point cutting is really, you know, when you point cut hair, you should be able to look away and talk. You should always know what the right hand and the left hand are doing. And I mean, one tip is I always close the scissor on the way out, never on the way in, because that way if I do happen to catch myself, it's not going to be nearly as devastating. I was going to go for gnarly. Gnarly of a cut. That's that California. I mean, gnarly of a cut is if you're closing it on the way in. And then my left hand, because I'm a right-handed hair cutter, my left hand is obviously just kind of giving me the length guide or how deep I'm going in. And you notice as I'm point cutting, I'm starting in deeper, and then I begin sliding that left hand up and out, just to kind of create a really erratic internal texture. So I want to keep this a little bit croppier, have that a little bit longer and softer, and haven't really began to cut the crown yet. I'm going to move into the crown now. Cool. Looking good. So now with the crown, I left this crown, originally when I did that round graduation, I had a lightly rounded V-shaped crown section left out. So I'm going to take it in. It's going to be left with some mild disconnection from the underneath. I'm just going to pick it up. You got a good angle there. Yep. Get my fingers nice and tight to the scalp and begin doing some nice point cutting through there. Just to begin to really like soften it up, and that will begin to visually allow the hair to blend into the lower round graduated part and look like it's all kind of melding together. You have like a visual blend but no technical blend. You know, for you guys who may have not caught Billy in action the past few weeks, you know, this guy's a really great hair cutter. I'm really excited to be working side by side with him. He's got a lot of great experience, a lot of great information to share. He's been in the industry just as long as about 20 years, and he's been a salon owner. He's trained with some of the best hairdressers in the industry. So, I mean, like, I like watching him cut. He's a very clean hair cutter, understands it, you know. So you got to tune in, check him out, hear his voice and what he's got to share with you. And it's funny, you know, when Billy first moved out here, we were sitting out having a couple pints of beer, and we just started kind of talking. And we kind of like crossed each other's paths by weeks, if not like maybe a month. You know, very early on in our careers, working for some of the same people, holding the same position within the same companies. This is kind of funny, you know. We never really crossed paths back then. I met Billy about, what, 2 years ago maybe? I don't know, year ago? Year ago? Yeah. Through mutual friends, colleagues. I'm just working right back up into that center crown, making sure everything's blending through. I've missed live streaming. I've felt so bad, you know. It's like, for a while there, Josh and I were going every other week and sharing the, you know, and it, like I say, I just feel like my weeks were just like, I was off, I was out, you know, just doing other things to help build the brand. And it feels really good to kind of be back in this quiet little room, sharing.
Maybe we got to figure out how to do this live feed on the radio.
Sharing the message of Federico. Yeah. Live feed on the road.
Yeah, live feed on the road. Throw a green screen up. I always have Federico.
So now I'm coming back through that bottom round graduation, just tipping into some of the over-directed. Definitely a corner there, huh? That's from what? The over direction forward and the over direction forward. Can you see that? Got to take that corner. So this is a good thing to have if you're cutting strong round graduation. You should find a nice corner. Let's see. Ooh. Yeah. So I'm going to just loosen it up, work it down. So I want this haircut to be soft. So soft to me is really having not a lot of corners in a haircut. It's keeping it all very soft. And if there is a corner, it's got a very soft transition. Cool. And now I'm going to pull out the straight razor because I can't really ever step away from it. I'm going to use a straight razor to kind of detail in around some of the hairline. And I like to kind of mix my tools up within each haircut using the scissor, the razor, a little bit of a texture shear. You know, it's kind of just my style and my way of cutting hair. Each tool does something a little bit different. And it's really just understanding and knowing, you know, what that tool can do for you, or, you know, that's going to work against you. And this is the part where my arm angle is going to get funky because of the razor. So what I'm going to do, drop you down. I'm going to spin you around here. Bring that ear forward. Picking it up within my hand. Okay, there's my section. Go over it. really cut down on that just to open up a little bit of the back of the ear. And I'll come back in with another one just to tighten this up a bit more. That's good, actually. And I'll come back into the front.
I'm getting a little crazy with the camera here.
No, I got.
I'm getting some different angles than I've seen before initially.
Good. Now I'm gonna kick the ear back with my middle finger and make sure I just really do not hit that ear with the tip of the razor. And I'm just really like detailing some of this out. And you just pick up pieces if you want, and just using the tip of the razor. Like I said, I want to keep some of those pieces, but I want to, as I keep them, I want them to be very airy and soft. I don't want them to be too obtrusively heavy, because I want to just kind of have them become very fuzzy at the end. See, I like the way that one's spinning. It's kind of moving, which tells me I'm not going to pull a lot of bulk or weight out of there. I'm going to come just behind it. Tell me if you need me to move. And then I'm coming back behind it. Good. Just coming back behind it very softly, opening up that ear well. That's good. Cool. Now come back behind the ear, do the same thing. Yeah, it'd actually be probably pretty good. Cool. Just kind of opening that up, getting it nice and soft. So, what I'm going to begin to do now is I've got this tail piece, and I'm going to kind of keep that for the moment. I'm going to get some of the moisture out of it and blow dry it around, and the rest of it will be detailed out all dry. So first off, mist it with a little bit of water, just to rehydrate it.
So with a short haircut like that, why remist and not just go in with a little bit of styling?
Just a little bit of styling lotion and move it around. I mean, for me in any haircut, my personal thing is I want to get most of the hair back to like a very even saturation content, you know, all over the shape of the head. So when I put in the product's being, you know, worked through the hair evenly, saturated into all the shafts about the same. And then when I come in and blow dry, you know, certain sections don't get too fuzzy from being overblown dry. And you know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use a little bit. This has been a new product I've been really digging on. Some Set and Style spray. This is from Morojo. Kind of pumping it very liberally into the hair. And what it'll do is it'll build up some really nice internal support of the haircut, a little bit of structure, help bring out a little bit of the texture. Yeah. And then my blow dryer. All right. And that's on. So, pretty much like a finger blow dry here. Keeping my fingers very open, blow drying that hair forward. Even though it's probably going to be finished out standing a little bit more up on end, but if I've got that internal texture in place with a little bit of help of like some finishing pomade, something light and a little creamy, should just definitely be able to pop right back up. Got my blow dryer on like a high fan speed, high heat setting, nozzles on, just keeping that airflow moving down the shaft of hair, moving that hair from the left to the right, forward on the sides. Back down on the left. one area I'll begin to pick up is that crown. So I definitely know that I want to see some good like springiness or activation in that background. Then I'll keep all that bottom nape kind of downward, and I'll blow dry it in the position that it was cut, being round. So I'm going to come in from the front and blow dry that back and downward from the left to the right. You can see that color variation where the naturals definitely didn't take the coppery color as much as the pre-existing lightened hair. So this is where Anna and I would have the conversation about coming into the salon and getting her hair colored. Right? Yeah. It's like, just let me know when you need a color model, huh? I don't blame you. Quick blow dry. Okay. Before I move on, a little bit of water. Okay. So now what I'll come back in, I'm just going to begin to work myself right back through the haircut very quickly and begin to open it up more so, taking a little bit of weight out, cropping it down a little bit shorter into the longer areas that I would like to see it. So getting my fingers nice and tight. Great. Begin to work forward. I ask this all the time, you know, in these live streaming shows, we have obviously a really great group of very talented artists within this building. You know, what type of content would you like to see on these shows? You want to see just like, you know, more hair cutting? What kind of hair cutting? We were doing barbering. Were people viewing in and watching the barbering? Do you want more of a mix of barbering, like contemporary kind of men's hair cutting? Color, what kind of color techniques? Long hair styling? Because really the show's about the viewer and making sure that we can share and help do our part in building the community, building the industry, and just kind of putting out education on all different levels. So just kind of working myself back around the shape of the head. Very important as you're going in and you're like softening up a haircut or you're texturizing into it, that you do not change the internal shape of the haircut. You can take a slightly different subsection pattern, But as long as you understand the core aspects of the haircut, you know, like this was disconnected. So if I were to check this in and connect, you know, A and B, I've just began to change the shape of the haircut. So, you know, just cross-checking your work, it's very important, whether you're doing it with the flat blade or the points of the scissor, but do not go in and change the haircut. Because you can definitely, maybe not change the outer line of the haircut, but you can definitely go ahead and begin to change the internal aspect of the haircut. And so while you're early on and you're learning and doing it, I highly recommend cross-checking your work the exact same sectioning pattern as, well, not cross-checking, but softening your work up the same way as you cut it. When it comes to cross-checking, you just go opposite of the way you cut it. So if I cut everything on a diagonal back, I'll look on a diagonal forward for cleanliness of line. And then cross-checking is merely just a check and balance. It's not where you fix your problem. If you've got a problem in the haircut where you grow in length or you made a corner, whatever it might be, you go back in the same way you cut it and begin to figure out where it may have gone awry or wrong, and then correct your work. Oh, Nick. What's up, Nick?
Got to run.
Thanks, Nick. So just working myself around, softening all this up. And the tips of the scissor at this point will really help soften up the transitions between, you know, the natural and the artificial. There's only so much I can do. You know what I mean? There's no way if I told you I was going to make this kind of color blend in, and right now I gotta look at perspective, and I bet you on the viewer you don't really see that much of that heavy of a line of demarcation as I do. So that's where I gotta kind of forgive myself and understand, like, what you're seeing and what I'm seeing is probably two completely different things. Because generally I'll go home every night after I do one of these things and I'll watch it, and for the things I was killing myself on live, you don't ever see. It's all about perspective. I had that conversation with some of my team, you know, a couple weeks ago. Got to learn to step back off your work and to look at it from afar. Because when you're like right here, you'll always boggle out your minds and you'll never be satisfied. You'll always see something. So you got to learn to step away, take a secondary look, take a tertiary look, take a second set of eyes, get a teammate in the salon to come over. Take a look. This is why you wear good deodorant, for when you're cross-checking short croppy shapes and you're working with the head forward and you're working up and over the shape of the head. Head back a little bit. Cool. Now I'm going to come back in here and I'm just going to work the outline a little bit. I told you that I wanted to keep a lot of this. So I'm going to kind of section away the little bits that I really like. I'm going to come back in on it. I like that. Let's begin opening this little right around the hairline up, and that's going to help us kind of pop out the eyes, open the cheekbones a bit more, as well as just exaggerate these pieces out. Just helps out with cleaning everything up a bit. That piece I like, this piece I do not. That piece goes inward, head to me. Get the head over to me so I get the lengths of the scissors in. And just kind of working right around the hairline. Not changing the shape of the hairline, but just going right into it. Just with the tips of the scissor. Clean it all up. And then now it's going to begin to lightly just kind of cascade in forward. So just kind of drop it, see where that hair is moving to. It's coming forward. Come back now, tip that head forward, come back in and just do some little channeling, little slicing just to kind of finish it off. Very gingerly.
Coming up on the ear, you're using the tips of your scissors, the points, and now you're going into the blade a little bit more.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I go into the blade a little bit more when I definitely want more softness out of the line. When I'm coming in with the tips of the scissor, it's going to definitely create a, it'll create a soft edge, but definitely a harder edge. So more softness on the line, I'll use the depth of the scissor. So I'll do it again, like right now around the front hairline. I want to see this a little bit more definitive. So I'm going to come in and use the tips of the scissor. Just kind of open that up. Back again, around the back of the head. Tilt that out and away. Perfect. Sorry, don't talk much as I'm working around the ears. Don't want to cut. It's kind of keeping 100% focus. Okay, and then I'll go back in with more of the blade to soften up this like transitional line. So opening up the scissor more. Doing some very soft motions downward. Using definitely like the center of the blade and even into the back of the blade. Just a little bit. Cool. Okay, now I've got the back hairline. So the back hairline, obviously it grows into a very strong, rounded, kind of like V shape, tail shape. If I were to try to fight that, I would definitely be losing that battle. So, you know, in best case, I'm just going to work right with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hair over here and I'm going to yank it with the fine teeth of my comb. I'm going to come right in with that last bit, fine teeth of the comb, and do a little scissor over comb. Just take that all out. That definitely just begins to help like really shorten that up and sit that right in there. And then you come back in with the tips of your scissor and begin to clean this hair up. And obviously this hairline is very soft, So this is not a hairline I would take a clipper to personally, because as it begins to grow out, it would definitely have a harsher line. Now, last technique I did, I'm going to do it again just to check it and maybe take it down even a little tighter. Just kind of get all that hair up and in there, drag it over. Go up on it, bring it back in. I like the way that's moving. Continue it upward, just kind of following through. A little scissor over comb. Nice. Same thing to the opposing side. So coming back in, head down a little bit. I'm going to take the fine teeth of the comb, come up on it, drag it downward. There it is. Kick it back into the comb. Take it out. And then another time. Coming downward on it. Watching the ear with the tips of the scissor. Take it out. Definitely sitting it in there nice and tight again. Come back in with the tips of the scissor. Working a soft little circular round motion. Cleaning all that hair up. And then I'll come back in and do a little scissor over comb just like I did on the other side. Just kind of checking that work. Moving it upward. Cool. And now this bit, it's just like, oh, how extreme do I want to see it? Do I want to see it that extreme? Do I want to take it up a bit? It's got to come up a little bit. Does it, Billy?
I don't know, I'm kind of liking the extreme.
You liking the extreme?
Yeah, but then I gotta, you know, you gotta think about
Yeah.
3 months from now.
Right. Yeah, I don't want Anna to go out and be like, yeah, girl, nice rat tail. You get that often?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, girl, I like your tail.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be all cool and stuff 3 months later.
I don't know, man. Honestly, if you think about the evolution of hair and how everything come and goes, the rat tail has not come back in yet. But why? I had the raddest rat tail in 5th grade.
I mean, I was rocking in 2007.
Were you?
2008, I was rocking like 3 or 4 of them in different areas. Little whips. Crazy.
Little sewer rat ribs?
Yeah, I mean, I had like a mullet for like 2, 3 years. Maybe 6, 7, 8. Little British mullet, little Australian mullet. I know, they were big down there.
They were big down there.
Yeah. It was really kind of just a crazy revolution of like hairstyling like in 2006, 7, 8. I think everyone was still a little wacky mindset as it's filmed. Yeah.
So I was coming back through the back, doing some very light scissor over comb, just kind of double checking all my work. If I come back in here, I use the tips of the scissor a little bit more. Good. Okay, last thing I haven't really looked at is that fringe. Hey! How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So now in the fringe, I like the movement, I like the length, I like this piece, and this is how I like this piece, and I like this piece, and this piece is cool, but it can definitely use a little bit being broken up. So head back, I'm gonna come back into it and just kind of cut with the natural flow of the hair, moving my scissors with the movement of the hair. And that's gonna help encourage that growth to even move like that more so. But more importantly, if I didn't and I came straight into it, I cut off a large piece of hair that I didn't want to cut off. I like that a little bit. But I think it needs something interesting right here. I think I need to like lop out a little bit. I just take it real short right into one bit. And that's what will make my haircut stand alone too. If you were to cut it, Billy were to cut it, anybody. It's about giving it your own little personality, individualism in one spot. Because all I've done is cut round graduation and a concave layer and done a little bit of detailing, you know. The rest of it is personalizing, making it your own. And hopefully it works, and if it doesn't, I apologize and send him to the front desk and tell him to go pay. And I'll see him in 6 weeks. Just playing, it's horrible. Come back in on that short part, just kind of work on the top of it just to collapse it down a little bit. It's all about really, like, you know, keeping the client happy. After owning a salon for 14 years and being stuck on the heavy-ended creative aspect of it, really at the end of the day, it's about, you know, delivering a great service to your client. Because if you can't do that, I hate to say it, but you don't have a business. You can be like a great hair cutter, but if you're not working for some crazy large company and doing it on stage, you're not going to have a, you know, business if you've got really bad, like, client rapport, client relations, bad communication skills. You see me? Cute. Cute. All right, finish you off. We'll get a little pomade in it. So yeah, you like to finish that rant, really. So like in my salon, I really try to teach all aspects of the service. Yeah, I can finish that rant. What were we talking about? Oh, we're talking about Hair Collective 40 minutes ago. Let's finish that rant now. Billy's like, this guy's nuts. Like, yeah, and you know, in AJF, man, we really like pride ourselves on, first off, is the client experience and the customer service, and we really like train our stylists to cut really great hair and to cut really great hair, because I believe everything goes hand in hand. I wish I could say it's a third the cut, a third the color, and a third like the customer service, but really it's like 90% the client experience, and then 5%, you know, maybe the haircut, and maybe 5%, you know, the color or the retail, whatever it might be. So it's all about the service, and you know, that's what we do, right? We're in the service industry. We happen to cut hair. What?
That and my watching
Exactly. Yeah. There's a new episode. That should be just the name of, like, what? Getting out of trouble. So now we have this person in here who wound up going to somewhere and they had a layer this short and their hair is this long. How do we get out of trouble? How do you get this person out of trouble? So I'm gonna look for a really nice, that's a dry wax. I don't want that. That's a molding clay. I don't want that. I guess I gotta use what I got, right? So I'm gonna use a really light molding clay. I want something shiny. I'll finish it off with some shine. You know what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of molding clay and I'll add a little oil to it. In the hands really, 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 really well. And then I'm going to start in the area where I want to see as much texture as possible, which is that back crown. I'm just kind of working it through with the palms of my hand, moving it all over. A little bit more. That oil is really soft. So as I begin to finish out the evening, let me finish out my calendar for the year. So we got DJ Muldoon coming down September the 15th, Monday, doing a salon professional day, doing some really great hair cutting. And then we got October the 20th, Douglas McCoy rolling out from Spokane, Washington, doing a building your brand, focusing on some hair cutting, finishing the day with a photo shoot. And then, you know, I think we go silent until 2015, which is right around the corner. And then once we go silent, come 2015, we'll still be here. We'll still be live streaming every week, if not more than a few times a week. But we will then, at that point, beginning to unleash what our 2015 calendar looks like. the artists we have locked down. I've got a lot of great things in the works, but I really don't want to speak on them prematurely. Don't blow my load. No. I like these little pieces as I talked about, and just kind of getting them really soft, kind of pulling out the texture within that haircut. This is that dry wax that I'm using right now just to kind of piece it out. I want a lot of this, the kind of movement and the activation through the top interior into that background. And then as I work into that bottom nape, keep that pretty soft and classic. Let me take this from you. I wish I had a towel to dust you off. Do we have a towel? Blow dryer? So, we talked about perspective, right? Here's my perspective. Anna, will you stand up for me? I'm going to get Anna out of my chair. I'm going to look away for a minute. And you want to step back behind the chair? Hey, girl.
I'm just
Creeping. And I'm going to now look away for a couple minutes. You know, get a whole different perspective on something else, and then just come back in. Mist it down. Hey, that's not supposed to be there. Yeah. Working my way around the shape of the head, looking for good like balance. Always a big fan of the profile, so I'm going to spin her. I'll give you a nice profile shape. So looking at really building a nice head shape that it's curving around the crown, tapering down to that nape, looking for what some may call like that really nice kind of question mark shape. Looking for like a really kind of chunky texture, looking past the color. And a little bit more spray just to hold her. Cool. So, Anna, do me a favor. You've got clothes on under there. If you'll just pull that off. Nice. And slip that. Cool. So, once again, a quick recap. Working in that back nape. Really nice, tight, round graduation. Over direction was just to the subsequent subsection to build up a very soft, round, flat, linear shape. From that point, I worked a really nice flat parietal ridge subsection, working off the length guide of that round graduation, just flattening it out all the way around the parietal on each side. At that point, I came back in and worked a concave layering technique, so collapsing it in to be a little bit linear and narrower into that parietal region, gaining the length through these sideburn bits that I really like. From that point, I began down a vertical subsection in the center top, cutting a really nice concave length, so I'm once again a little bit shorter here, getting longer as I moved into the front, and then began to work pivotally out from there, kind of creating a soft round internal shape. Using the tips of the scissor, did that everywhere. At that point, I began to clean up some of the hairline, blew it dry with a little bit of Set and Style spray to build up the texture and the shape, and then went back through the entirety of the haircut and just point cut through it to soften it all up and out, looking for that internal shape and texture to give it that support and movement, and then finished it off with a little bit of dry wax. So, and that's that, and spray, because Billy's choking. So, on behalf of myself and Anna and Billy, I'd like to thank you guys for joining in to Federico Advanced. You can find us here next Thursday, the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Billy may be demoing, I may be demoing, we may both be demoing. We're still working out how this is going to roll out. But, you know, like I say, more importantly, please start following us if you don't already on Federico Advanced Instagram, Federico Advanced Facebook page, or federico.edu to catch up on our upcoming calendar, what's coming in the house for advanced education. You know, like our stuff, share it out. Because we're, I think, good people. We're all about building community and sharing education. So thank you. Have a wonderful Thursday evening. It's time for a beer. Yee! Yeah. Thank you, Anna. So I'm going to clean you up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off this mic.